All right, folks, so in today's video, we are back with a brand new update in regards to the results and performance of the signals provided within our free VIP. This is a private members area that allows members to follow, copy, and profit from our personal gold trades, something that we've been doing for over a year. And I'm excited to share with you some new developments that's going to give you access to more signals day and night. So as many of you know, for the majority of this time, our free VIP was a way for you to follow my personal gold trades. However, in efforts to provide you more value, we have teamed up with another group of traders where you're going to get access to 5 other additional signal channels for Tokyo, London, and New York markets, giving you access to signals around the clock, so you'll be able to copy and profit from these trades regardless of your time zone. So again, just to clarify, where you once only had access to my signals, where I mostly send out signals late London and New York session, now you get access to more signals covering all markets, providing you with more trading opportunities. So as usual, we're going to go through the trades that I've personally called out, and we're going to review the results and also dive into the chart, but also we're going to review the results and performance of the additional signals that you will have access to as well. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video, and if you like what you see and you want to learn more about how you can access our free VIP, visit our website down below. But with that being said, let's get started and review the results. If you have any questions or need help, feel free to comment down below. You can also message me more directly via email or Telegram. You can access all of my official content information down below in the video description. If you're familiar with any of our prior videos, obviously we're going to go through the signal data of the trades that I personally call out, as well as going into the chart, so that way you can verify the quality of the signals that we provide. This, of course, is something most other signal providing services out there don't do. But like I said a few moments ago, folks, that in addition to my own personal trades, you can also opt into access our partner signals. Again, you get access to 5 additional signal channels, including Tokyo, London, and New York markets. And just so that you can see the value of these signals that you can have access to, here we have the data for the new signal channels provided within our VIP. Just as a note, the results for the 22nd through the 28th are not available yet because we're only halfway through the week. But just for this month alone, so we're only talking about the first couple of weeks of June, over 159 trades have been called out with an 86% win rate, where 137 of those 159 trades were profitable, with only 22 minor losses. Now, what I love about this data is that they break it down into more details to give you ideas of win streaks versus losses and potential profits. So as you can see, again, this is just for this month alone, when we're only a couple of weeks in. They've delivered over 12,000 pips in profit, with the best day of gaining over 2,800 pips, and the worst day so far with a minor loss of just over 30 pips. Longest winning streak of 17 winning trades in a row, and the longest losing streak of only 2 trades. So on average, you'll see a winning run of around 6 to 7 trades in a row, with an average losing run of less than 2 trades. And very similar to what I do in my prior updates, to give you an idea of what this means in terms of dollar profits, with a standard 1 lot size based off of these numbers, that's over $1,000 in profit. With a 0.10 lot size, that's over $10,000 in profit. With a 0.50 lot, that's over $51,000. And of course, for anyone with trading larger accounts or higher risk tolerance, with a standard 1 lot size, you're looking at over $103,000. And again, folks, this is just based off of this month alone, which again, the month isn't even over yet. This week's results are not available just yet because they do these at the end of the week. But as of March 13th, which was only a few months ago, over 1,800 trades with an average win rate of 80%, where over 1,400 of the 1,800 trades were winners, and a minor 370 of those trades were losses, delivering over 120,000 pips in profit over these last few months, which you can read this on your own. Best day over 3,100 pips, worst day less than 200 pips in terms of losses, which is phenomenal. Longest winning streak of 24, longest losing streak of only 4, and then here you have the data of the potential profits based off of the total data. So that's the type of quality that you can expect to receive from our partner signals. And again, folks, this is in addition to my personal signals that I also call out. So this is what I'm talking about, with this combination of my signals and our partner signals, you're going to have access to signals regardless of your time zone, access to more trading opportunities to follow, copy, and profit from. So with my personal trades that I call out between the 5th and the 9th, we delivered over 4,700 pips in profit. We did have one loss, winning 17 out of 18 trades, giving us a 94.4% win rate. Second week between the 12th and the 16th, over 2,700 pips were delivered in profit. We did have 3 losing trades, winning 16 out of 19, giving us an 84.21% win rate. Third week, over 3,700 pips in profit. We did lose 4 trades out of 22, so this gives us 18 wins out of 22. That's over 81.82% win rate. And then on the last week, between the 27th and the 30th, we didn't trade on the 26th, which I believe was a Monday. So this was a much shorter week, but nevertheless, delivering over 2,000 pips in profit, losing only 3 trades, so winning 10 out of 13, giving us just under a 77% win rate. So when you tally up all the numbers, we delivered over 13,000 pips in profit, losing only 11 trades for the entire month, giving us a total profit of over 12,000 pips in profit for the month with an average win rate of 84.35%. Now, in case you're wondering what that means in terms of a dollar value, if you're trading with a small account using the smallest lot size possible at 0.01, that's 10 cents per pip. So assuming that you took all of our trades, our wins and our losses, that's over $1,200 for the month. With a 0.05 lot size, that's 50 cents per pip. So that's an equivalent of over $6,100. With a 0.10 lot size, that's $1 per pip. So $1 times the 12,290 pips that we delivered for this month in profit, including our losses, that's over $12,000 in profit. And for those of you with larger accounts or larger risk tolerance, trading at a standard one lot, that's $10 per pip, which if you multiply that by our monthly numbers, that's an equivalent of over 6 figures. And again, folks, this is all made possible by following, copying, and pasting the trades that we provide. We conduct the analysis, we provide you with the trade setups, and all you have to do is copy those trades onto your broker. So there you have it, folks, another profitable month in the books. Like I said, we've been doing this for over a year. But again, as a benefit for our free VIP, not only do you get access to my personal trades, but you also get access to our partner signals as well, covering all markets. So if you want to learn more and access our free VIP today, visit our website down below. But for the remainder of this video, we are now going to hop into the charts and review all of the trades that I personally called out, so that way you can verify the quality of our trades, something that most signal providing services out there don't do. Enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you on the inside of our VIP. Starting off the new year, our first trading day for January was on the 5th, and we started with a series of buys. So we did a buy at 405, 400, and then we also did another buy when price got a little bit higher at around 416. So here is our first entry at 405, our second entry at 400, and then again, as price rose up, our entry here at 416. And as you can see, based off of the chart and the updates, take profits 1 through 6 were hit for all 3 of these trades for 350 pips, 440 pips, and 340 pips. Couple updates on those trades, and then on the next day on the 6th, we started again with another series of buys, starting off with a buy at 457, 460, 455, and then 475. So here are those entries, as you can see, based off of the arrows, where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for the first 3 for 330 pips, 400 pips, and 350 pips. And then on our 4th entry, which is this entry over here at 475, we had take profits 1 through 5 were hit for 250 pips. So again, some updates on those trades, which brings us to the 7th, where we started off with a couple of buys, a buy at 449 and 439. So here's our first entry where take profit 1 was hit for 30 pips with this wick, and then as price came down to a lower level, we took the second entry at 439, where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for 140 pips. Now, as price came up here to this level, we changed our bias, where we then started to target sell. So we took our first sell at 44.6 and 452. So here's our first entry here at 44.6, and then our entry at 452. Take profits 1 through 5 were hit for both for 230 pips on the first sell, and then 290 pips on that second entry. Then we did a buy at 458. Here's that entry where take profit 1 was hit for 30 pips based off of these first 2 candles. Then as price came down to lower levels, so we did another buy at 452. Here's that entry where eventually take profits 1 through 3 were hit for 120 pips. Next day on the 8th, we started off with a couple of buys, a buy at 412, a buy at 432, and then a buy at 449. So here's the first entry at 412 right over here, second entry at 432, and then our third entry at 449 right over here, where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for all 3 trades for 380 pips, 360 pips, and 360 pips again. Updates on those trades bringing us to the 9th, starting off with a couple of buys, a buy at 470. Here's that entry where our stop loss was hit, resulting in our first loss for the month. And as price came lower, we took a second entry at 463. Here's that entry where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for 370 pips. A couple of updates on those trades, a note in regards to the NFP that was about to be released, some analysis and screenshots of the trades that we had taken here between our first losing trade and then the second trade, which shot up in profits for over 370 pips, bringing us to the 12th, where we started the day with a buy at 586, and then shortly after that we did a sell at 597. So here's our first entry for the buy where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for 370 pips. And then in the midst of this, we did target a scalp sell. So again, this is a sell at 597. Here's that entry where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for an additional 100 pips. Now in the midst of our first buy, as this trade is still fluctuating, we then took another buy at 615. Here's that entry where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for an additional 100 pips. And then as the day progressed, we did take another buy. So let's find that entry here. So yep, a buy here at 588. Here's an entry where take profit 1 was hit for an additional 50 pips before reversing down to lower levels, which brings us to the 13th, where we started off with a sell at 586. Here's that entry where take profits 1 and 2 were hit down to the lower level of this wick for take profits 1 and 2 for 70 pips. And then as price tested the support, we then changed our bias where we then targeted a buy at 588. This is our entry here at 588, which didn't work out so well. So price came down lower level, pushing our original sell to hit take profits 1 and 2 for 70 pips, but resulted in a loss for our first buy. But as price came back up to these higher levels, we then did a re-entry, trying again for another buy at 588. So here's that entry where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for 350 pips. We also pointed out that for anybody who joined our 8:30 live session, that we called out for a buy between 606 and 603, which was in the midst of this bullish candle where take profits 1 through 5 were hit based off the point of this peak for 200 pips. An update on our prior buy that we had taken earlier here at a lower price. Then we took a buy at 620. Here's that entry where take profit 1 was hit for 30 pips. Then we did another buy at 604. Here's that entry where take profits 1 and 2 were hit for 60 pips, concluding that session for the day, bringing us to the following day on the 14th. Now on the 14th, we started off with a couple of buys, buy at 633 and 626. So here's our first entry at 33, where take profits 1 and 2 were hit for 80 pips. Then as price came down to the lower level of 626, we took another buy where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for an additional 140 pips. Now, as price came back up to this level, we start to see some weakness. So that's where we decided to look for a possible sell. So here's the note here. We might start to see a break of structure, looking for a possible sell between 633 and 635. So here's that entry right over here. Perfect entry where price then dropped, eventually hit and take profits 1 through 7 for 470 pips. Some updates on those trades. I also recorded a video based off of my analysis of why we initially first started off with a couple of buys, but then started to see a possible break of structure and weakness, which is why we changed our bias for the sell, which worked out beautifully. And then on the 15th, we started off with a couple of buys, a buy at 614 and then 605 as price came down to lower points. So here's our first entry at 614, where as you can see from this point of entry, price came up in profit, but didn't hit our first take profit target yet and came back to entry. And this is where I put everyone on notice that as price was back at our entry zone, that we should play this one safe by trailing our stop loss at break even to remove risk from this trade. And it was a good thing we did, because as you can see, after we trailed our stop loss at break even, price came down to lower levels. So in other words, folks, by bringing our stop loss at break even, we didn't make any money from this trade, but we also didn't lose any money either. We actually avoided this loss as price came down to lower levels. So as price came down to lower levels, we did attempt another buy at 605 or right over here. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, resulting in a loss hitting our stop loss. And as price continued to hit lower levels, I then called out that I was looking to buy between 581 and 579. As you can see, based off of these wicks, price came down, hit our entry. I also posted a screenshot of my entry, beautiful entry where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for 340 pips. Now, as price came up to this level, we did attempt a scalp sell at 611, where price only came down to hit take profits 1 and 2 for a smaller gain of 90 pips. Then we attempted another buy at 612. Here's that entry, which didn't work out, resulting in another loss. Now, as a bonus trade based off of the structure, I decided to announce for a sell between 612 and 614, where actually It looks like I made a mistake here, guys. This was a sell, but I accidentally marked this as a buy. So let's actually redo this just so that way you can see how we verify our entries. You can see the timestamp of the signal was at 4:09 p.m. That's Eastern time. So on TradingView, 4:09 Eastern time is 16:09 GMT. So you can see the timestamps on the bottom of the TradingView chart. So 16, let's actually find our short tool. So 16:09, that's right here, right in between 16:10 and 16:20. So our entry was at around 6:14 right up here. Stop loss set at 622, that's right up here. So as you can see, price did not hit our stop loss. It came up as far as 620 but did not hit, and then eventually price dropped down all the way down to 592. As you can see, based off of the signal, 592 is take profit 5. So this is actually incorrect. It wasn't take profits 1 and 4 for 170 pips. This hit take profits 1 through 5 for 200 pips. So let's just make that correction. TPs 1 through 5 hit 200 pips. Sorry about that little error, but as you can see, that's how we verify our trades. We look at the timestamps based off of the time that the signal was sent versus what the price is actually doing on the chart. And that way you can see that indeed, even though I mislabeled this incorrectly, you can verify for yourselves based off of the timestamps and our point of entry that this was a valid trade for 200 pips. Moving on to the 16th on the following day, starting off with a buy at 591. Here's our entry where take profits 1 through 5 were hit for 290 pips. Now, in the midst of this trade, we also attempted a scalp sell at 603. Here's that entry where take profit 1 was hit for a minor gain of 50 pips. Some updates on those trades, which brings us to the weekend. Now, on the following Monday, on the 19th, I did post that since Monday was a holiday that we weren't going to be around to send out any signals, but to also make note of the fact that we did have this market gap. So we were curious to see if markets were going to fill this gap in the upcoming trading days of that week. On Tuesday, the 20th, we resumed our trading where we started off with a series of buys. Now, because of the volatility of gold, I made a note to change over to the 1-minute chart. That way you can see the better price action from our entries because we start to see a lot larger movements on the 10 and 15-minute time frame. So here we are on the 1-minute chart. Again, starting off the day with a couple of buys, a buy at 725 and 717. So here's that first entry at 725, which as you could see resulted in a loss. But then as price came down to lower levels, we called for an additional buy at 717. Here's that entry where eventually take profits 1 through 6 were hit for 330 pips. Once price came out to this level, we changed our bias and started targeting sells. So then we did a sell at 742. Here's that entry. And then we did a second entry at the same price, as you could see, based off of our notes. So in other words, we took our first entry at 742, which again is this entry over here, where I then announced that because price dropped so quickly from our first sell, that since price was back at our entry zone, that if you missed the first entry, you can take a second entry again at the same price of between 740 and 742, targeting the same stop loss and take profit targets. So here's our first entry, here's our second entry, which as you can see based off the chart and the updates, price came up, a little bit of drawdown until eventually hit in take profits 1 through 4 for both trades for 180 pips each. And as price came up to higher levels, we did attempt another sell at 755. Here's that entry. Unfortunately, it didn't work out well, resulting in a loss, where I then later on posted an updates on those trades. So again, based off of the chart and the updates, so even though we had 2 losses for this day, our wins based off the price action and how far price moved, our wins greatly outnumbered our 2 losing positions. Then on the following day, we started off with a couple of buys, a buy at 858 and 863. So here's the first entry at 58 and then our second entry at 863. First entry, take profits 1 through 5 were hit for 220 pips, and then our second trade, we capitalized 170 pips, hitting take profits 1 through 4. Now, as price came into these areas, we targeted some additional buys. A buy at 853. Here's that entry. Then a buy at 863. Here's that entry. So almost similar to our prior trades, where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for 140 pips on the first. Stop loss hit our second entry. Then we decided to do one more buy, where at least I thought it was going to be our last buy of the day, where we took another buy again at 858. Here's that entry between 860 and 858. where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for 120 pips based off of this peak. And then as price came down to this level to test support once again, I then called another bonus trade where we were to enter at 853. So here's that entry again, where take profits 1 through 3 were hit for an additional 130 pips. A couple of updates where I then announced that I was looking to buy if price came down between 750 and 748. So in other words, this was a pending order, anticipating that when price came down to this level, that price would bounce up. But as you could see based off of the chart, this was our pending order area. However, the setup fails because price never came down to our zone and only came down as low as 755. So this trade never activated. So I announced everyone to cancel that pending order. And as price came up to these higher levels, we then attempted a sell between 828 and 830. Here's that entry where take profits 1 through 4 were hit for an additional 150 pips. Here's a screenshot of some of those entries for the sell, where we then attempted one final trade for the day, a buy between 787 and 785. Here's that entry. Again, we're on the 1 minute chart, guys, so that's why it looks like there's a whole lot more going on. Here's that entry at 785, where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for 380 pips. Moving on to the following day, starting off with a couple more series of buys, a buy at 828 and then a buy at 814. So here's our first entry at 828 where take profits 1 and 2 were hit for 80 pips. But as price came down to lower levels at 814, this is where we called to buy at that zone where take profits 1 through 6 were hit for an additional 390 pips. Now in the midst of our first buy, I then called out for another buy, as you can see here, to enter at around 820. So in other words, because our second buy entry moved quickly, I announced that if you had missed that prior entry, that you could still enter now at the current price of 820. So here's that entry at a slightly higher level from our second entry, where eventually price came down to a little bit of drawdown before eventually going up, hitting take profits 1 through 6 for both of these trades, again for 390 pips on the second and 400 pips on the third. A couple of updates on those trades, some screenshots of my own entries, where eventually we attempted to do a scalp sell between 900 and 902. So here's that entry, which didn't result in our favor, hitting our stop loss for a loss. A couple of screenshots on my analysis and why I was attempting to sell even though it didn't work out, where we then attempted one final sell at 924. Here's that entry, where take profits 1 and 2 were hit for a smaller gain of 80 pips. Next day, we started with a series of sells. Let's go over here. So yep, here we go. A couple of sells here. So we start off with the first sell at 922. Here's that entry. Take profits 1 and 2 were hit for 80 pips. And then we attempted a second sell at a higher zone at 934, where price came into drawdown and then back to our entry, where I then announced that since price was back at our entry zone, to trail our stop loss at break even to remove risk from this trade in case of the trade were to reverse. Very similar to our prior scenario where we trail our stop loss at break even. This was a smart decision because as you can see, price went up even further, but because we trailed our stop loss at break even, we didn't make any money, but we also didn't lose any money either, avoiding this loss. Now, as price came down to lower levels, we then changed our buys to buys instead of sells. So we did a buy at 922 and then later on another buy at 944. So here's our first entry at 922, second entry at 944. Both trades hit take profits of 1 through 6 for 400 pips and then 360 pips. Updates on those trades, where on the following trading day, we actually ended up having a snowstorm, so I wasn't able to send out any signals or trades for that day. So we came back on the following day on the 27th, starting off with another series of buys. A buy at 077 and then a buy at 083. So here's our first entry at 77 and then here's our second entry at 083. Take profits 1 through 3 were hit for 140 pips on the first and 80 pips for take profits 1 and 2 on the second. We then attempted another buy at 708, which didn't work out well, resulted in a loss. But then as price dropped down to lower levels, retesting a new support zone, we then attempted another buy at 5058. Here's that entry where take profits 1 through 5 were hit for an additional 210 pips. Then on the following day, on the 28th, we did a couple more buys, a buy at 258 and 268. So here's our first entry at 58, and then here's our second entry at 68. Take profits 1 through 5 were hit for 310 pips on the first entry, and take profits 1 through 4 were hit for 210 pips on the second. A couple of notices on some upcoming events in regards to the FOMC. So we stopped trading for the day until we returned later on that afternoon, where we did a high risk scalp sell at 298. Here's that entry, which actually worked out pretty well from our entry at 98 to 280, allowed us to capitalize take profits 1 through 4 for an additional 150 pips. Some updates on the FOMC, which brings us to the following day on the 29th, where we started off with another series of buys. So bear with me, guys, because it kind of gets sandwiched in because, again, these candles are on the 1-minute chart, and we were seeing a lot of volatility with gold. So again, we started off with a series of buys. First entry at 524, second entry at 513. So here's our first entry. Take profits 1 through 4 were hit for 160 pips, and then our second entry, take profits 1 through 5 were hit for 350 pips. Now we did attempt another buy at the 523 level. Here's that entry, but as you can see, based off the chart and the updates, stop loss was hit, resulting in a loss. But then as price came down to lower levels, we attempted another buy where actually, let's find the number here. So the second buy here, 508. So that was, yep, right here, where, as you can see, take profits 1 through 5 were hit for an additional 400 pips. A couple of updates on those trades. Then we announced that we might have a possible gap fill between 418 and 416. So this was at 10 o'clock in the morning, or I should say just a little after 10 o'clock in the morning. That was right over here. It really didn't work out as much as I thought it would, but nevertheless, we still got a small gain where take profit 1 was hit for 30 pips before continuing in its downward trajectory. And later on that afternoon, we attempted another buy. Let's find this one here. Yep, so we did a buy here at 354. Here's an entry. Stop loss hit, resulting in a loss, concluding our trades that we had called out for the month of January 2026. So there you have it, folks. Those are the trades that we called out for the month of January 2026, delivering over 1,200 pips in profit. If you want to learn more about our free VIP and how to access all these amazing signals to follow, copy, and profit from, visit our website down below, and I'll see you on the inside.